Whoa. All right. We already got people in. Way to go. I'm going to remove my earpiece, I think, because I got water in my ear. And I think we should be fine without it tonight. Illinois is here. Illinois. All right, well, how you doing? This is Mark coming to you from Baker's Green Acres. Today's Wednesday, what, the 3rd or 4th? And I got Jill with me. Tonight is our traditional Anyone Can Farm live stream question and answer where we talk about things having to do with homesteading, small farming, and just plain living. Okay, I got a tanker got to go by here.
Do you have your earbud in?
No, I don't, because I got water in this ear. So this is what it looks like when tankers go by. Yeah, it's not so bad, this one. Sometimes we have them going by, 2 every 20 minutes, and then it gets old. This is the season when the industrial farmers are out spreading manure, and I don't know, that's just the way it is. So it stinks right now. They're spreading it at least half-mile away, but it's pretty smelly here right now. Oh, it's just something that you live with when you live in farm country. Okay, so I've had a long day. I'm kind of tired, actually, and I don't think we're going to go much more than an hour tonight because Jill's got some commitments. But Jill is with me, and she's manning the computer, the laptop computer. And we had a stimulating conversation last night, and I augmented it a little bit today with a video. I was moving cows, and what we talked about last night was places and spaces and how to vertically integrate, right? And it's, I don't know, big words, but kind of how to kill 2 birds with 1 stone all the time. How to kind of maximize your efficiency around your homestead. Kind of treat it like a business and get an increase all the time. Everything that you're doing, get an increase, a 2 for 1, right? Making money, right? Make it work for you. And today I showed, as I was moving fences for the cows, I showed a field that I use for both chickens and cows. And I was just letting the cows on it to really clean up some really nice high grass because the chickens had been manuring on it for a couple years, so the grass is really doing well on it. And at the same time, I showed the fences that I utilize, because when you have pigs and cows side by side, cows have a tendency to reach over and they can wreck the fences. And when you have pigs on the inside, if there's grass on the outside, and that's what cows eat, pigs have a tendency to push those fences, so you have to have electric down low for the pigs. And we've got a pretty good system. We haven't had a breakout around here in quite a while. I did have a tree go over a fence down in the back, and I think it was Memorial Day, wasn't it? Jill and I went out for something, getting s'mores, and we get downtown. We very rarely go downtown these days because of COVID. And we get downtown, we get a phone call, hey, your cows are out. Like, what? We just left house. But yeah, they were. There was a tree went over the fence, and so they thought, hey, let's go eat the grass on the other side. And so they went over and visited my neighbor's cows and all that. It happens. We kind of try to work together as neighbors, give and take. There's always something going on. But I thought it was a good conversation that we had last night. I wasn't able to take a lot of questions, so that is the purpose of the Wednesday night. So tonight is question. I will take as many as you can throw at me in an hour. The Wednesday night was actually created because we were getting phone calls all the time to the house asking questions, questions that maybe people could be asking their vet, I think. And at first it was okay, but it got a little overwhelming. And then people would call the house looking for me, and my kids would give out my cell phone number. And, you know, as recent as today, I have people calling and asking me questions. And that's why we set up the Wednesday. So save your questions till Wednesday. Yeah, if it's a life or death, you know, my wife's going to jump off the roof. Do you think she'll make it if she's only, you know, going to jump 20 feet? And I'll just tell you, let her jump. She'll be all right. She'll get over it. But it does get a little old after a while, the phone ringing and, you know, long questions. And I'm not going to do it anymore, actually. And I'm telling people, nope, you got to call in on Wednesday night. And I've had to really kind of put my foot down. So there it is. Good news, great news. I think I brought this up last night. Our Anyone Can Farm Homestead Hog Harvest is full for this year, and it's 5 months out. It's in November. Heads up, though, we're going to be doing a class in Maine in October, and New Hampshire in October, and another class here in Michigan on Beaver Island. I think it's going to be in November after the class that we do on Baker's Green Acres, which will be the 6th, 7th, and 8th, I believe. So we are making another list, and let's say we fill up 12 slots, then we'll open up another day here at the farm. We can do that. All right, so let's see, what else? Tomorrow we're going to talk about integration of your farmstead, and we're going to focus on species. And it's not going to be a real long time. I'm going to give a couple of examples of how I have different species here, and you know how they work together, the things to know that don't work, and you know how to manage when you have different species together, because this things to know, and you can get a lot more bang out of your time when you do diversify on the farm. Plus it's well, we'll talk about it tomorrow night, but I think it's going to be an interesting thing because I've thought about it today, and I think that there's a lot more to do. There's a lot more to discuss, and there's a lot more things to try. I got water in my ear, so I can't hear myself for some reason. So I'm just getting rolling here. Beautiful night out tonight. No clouds in the sky. Nice moon already up. 80 degrees, but we had a nice breeze today, so it wasn't too tough. I had 2 fields that I had to plow up, and I wanted to get them planted, but I just didn't make it that far. Maybe I will after the show tonight. If not, I'll do them first thing in the morning. On one of the fields, though, I had a structure. We call them half pipes, and it's a half of a fuel tank. We'll use them for shelters for the animals. And the one that I needed to move today, I plowed too much of the field up, so I couldn't move it because it was the field was too soft. And when I tried picking it up with the tractor, my tractor tires would sink in, and then I couldn't get any traction to move it. So I had to haul my oxygen acetylene out there and cut the tank in half, which I've been going to do for years anyway because it's just too heavy to handle with my little tractor. So now we have 2 pieces, and I can always put them close together in the wintertime when we have more animals in them, but now I can move them around. So it's one of those things I've been wanting to do for a long time, and today I finally got it done. You know, sometimes I'll think, you know, I need to do this. And the more time I wait to do it, the bigger it seems to get. And I started plowing around this dumb thing today, and I thought, I need to move this. And I thought, all it's going to take, I just got to go to the barn, get the oxygen acetylene, haul it over here, cut this thing in half, and take it out. Why is that so hard? And it took me all of about an hour to do. So I got that done. So I feel like I got some good stuff done today. All right, I am ready Jill is here helping me. She hates when I do this.
Good evening.
She's here helping me, so if there's any questions, comments, complaints, I saw a thread today. One of our friends from down in the Detroit area that got a puppy from us years ago. It's got to be 5 years ago that she got Falcor.
6.
Okay.
He's 6.
And he took a chunk out of the UPS or the FedEx man today, so she wants to find a new home for him. And she told the story on the tribe, and it was a pretty rough story, you know, because her husband was killed in a car accident a few years back, and you know, Falcor was a good friend to their family, but now he's become sort of a liability. You know, he doesn't have enough to do. He really needs to be on a farm. He's 6 years old, but I guess he's well trained, and he's one of Obi's pups, so I think he'd be a good dog.
She said he's really, really good. He's just getting more and more
Protective.
overprotective.
Yeah.
And
she's got little kids.
And barking issues in town.
Yeah. So he needs to go to another home. And it's funny how that worked out, because she put that up, that story, and somebody contacted Jill this morning saying she was looking for an adult dog. So I don't know if we hooked them up, but it's working. And our dog, I took a picture of her for the show tonight. That's Claire. And she's going to have puppies anytime soon. Anytime. But when Nicole told her story, another friend of ours chimed in that, you know, my dog does the same thing, barks at night, da 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 da, kind of makes, and they both said Baker's Green Acres dogs. So I thought, wow, that's good PR. But no, the dogs are great. I'm not really prepared to talk about dogs tonight in Great Pyrenees and stuff, but I probably will as time goes by. That would be a good theme. A good theme would be animals and the homestead. That would be a good theme. I think I'll write that down. But I'm ready if you have some questions for me there, Ma.
Yeah. Did you answer the ones from last night?
Yeah.
Okay. Brittany wanted to know, why do calves' eyes water?
Oh, you just got this calf. I hate to tell you this, Brittany, but the calf is missing its mom. It's crying. No, I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know. I have noticed that, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. There's got to be a good reason for it. Maybe the different. I don't know. Do you know, Jill?
Flies maybe.
Well, she would have seen flies, yeah. I would think.
But other than that, it just seems to be a thing that they kind of do.
Yeah, it's just a calf thing.
Yeah, and the cows do that. But flies could, you know, or even gnats, little flies can be irritating in the corners of their eyes, and they water to get rid of them. So.
Okay, I wrote down a theme for discussion, and it's going to be animals in the homestead, and you could go through livestock animals, you could go through pets, you could knock them all down, and then we could talk about, well, we're going to talk about them tomorrow night, how they fit together, you know.
Yeah, she said it's a month old. I'll be its mom. I have enough babies around here already. Maybe gnats.
Brittany's getting ready to have a baby too, isn't she?
Yes, 34 weeks.
34 weeks, wow. You must be as big as a house with a 2-car garage. That's what that guy used to know, say that about his wife. I thought it was pretty funny. But yeah, when you have your baby, definitely, share some pictures. That'd be a good theme for discussion too. raising children on the homestead. That really would be a good theme.
Huh, I was just
Children
writing
and
a
the
blog.
homestead.
I was just writing a blog about that.
Oh yeah,
So,
I'm gonna write it down. All right. Last night I I was kind of going on about how just 1 week before, we were in COVID and we were worried about, being locked down and we can't go fishing and we can't get our hair cut and all that stuff. And then 1 week later, the country seems to be in kind of turmoil. A lot of rioting. I guess there was like 140 cities last night. And I was busy today, so I didn't really look at any of that stuff until just before I went on. I wanted to catch up on what was going on. Uh, I'm glad I don't live someplace where I have to see it in person or drive through it or hear the sirens at night. I'm glad I don't have to. Um, it's kind of another reason, I guess, to have a fallback position of your homestead. It's been kind of nice to just be able to shut my phone off and I don't even know what's going on. So kind of wonder where we're going to be next week this time. We'll see. We'll see.
you want to go backwards?
No.
Okay. Cody wondered, do you wean your pigs or let sows do it naturally? And having sows for so long breeding, do you have to trim their hooves like goats or not, since they're on pasture?
No. You don't trim pig's hoofs. I've never heard of anybody trimming pig's hoofs. I've never done it. So, no. Um, Weaning, we do it both ways. If we need the wiener pigs, if we want to sell them for some reason, then we'll take them when people need them. Like the pigs to be 6 or 8 weeks old, like to have them on regular feed before we take them. But if we don't, if they're just going to stay here, then there's really no reason to take them, and mom will just, she'll kick them off. So we do it both ways. And I do have some breeding stock here if anybody needs some Mangalitsa breeding stock. I have like 3 different combinations out of 2 different lines. So I'm not going to hang on to them forever, but if people want to get serious about it and get some breeding stock, now is the time. I mean, it's a nice facet to have on your homestead. It's sustainable. I think the biggest drawback that people bring up is, well, I don't want to have to haul water in the wintertime. But if you live someplace where there's snow, Mangalitsa's eat snow. Oh, most pigs eat snow. I don't think it's just Mangalitsa's. Okay, I didn't catch that one. It was something in.
Oh, um,
It was
did you
something
talk
in.
about weaning?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay, what age does the mom normally do it naturally?
8 or 10 weeks. And you know what? I had a sow just recently that only had 2, and she had those things nursing on her until she farrowed again. So when they have a bunch of them, it seems like they kick them off sooner if they only have a couple of them. Oh, there's a bird. Chase that bird off. We have a killer poodle. I hope you don't think less of me because I have a poodle, but it was my son's dog, and she wasn't getting along with their living situation, so she came to stay with us, and she's still here. So, looks like she's ours now.
Yep.
She's not. She's a golden doodle. She's like a big poodle. What else you got?
All right. Cody also wanted to know, how big do you recommend a pasture farrowing shelter be for one sow? He's thinking to make his from 2x4s and plywood and tin. Was thinking of putting a piece of wood along the back so that piglets could get out behind, but the sow couldn't. So, how big should
How
we do
big? I think your floor space needs to be like 6 by 8, and that might seem a little big. And I wouldn't put anything on either end if I were you. Just have it be a cover. So if there's a problem and your sow is pointing out, let's say, and there's a back of the hut on, and you have to get in there and do something, if there's no back on it, it'll be easy. If there is a back on it, then you're in there, and if she jumps up and moves around and stuff, you could wind up in trouble. So I wouldn't put a back on it. Mine do have backs on them. I have the Farm Tech calf hutches, I think, general purpose calf hutches, and I think they're 6 by 8, and they have a back on them. And it gives stability to the assembly, but I could easily get by with no back on them. But do what you want, try it. Pigs are pretty tough on shelters, that's for sure. And you'll learn. You build something, she'll tear it apart. You'll build it again. You'll learn. Uh, but I think you're going to want it a little bit bigger than you think. You want that sow to be able to get in there and turn around, because they like to be looking out. They want their babies in. But yeah, I think that would work. I've seen them like that, A-frames made out of 2x4s and plywood. They work out all right.
Probably down in his neck of the woods.
Where's he at?
I want to say Indiana.
Oh, Indiana.
But
his neck of the woods,
I
what?
know I've seen that down in southern Michigan.
Where they make them?
Where they had them out in the fields. It's been a long time
Oh,
ago.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
But,
Cass County. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of pig operations out on fields. Not necessarily pastured pigs, just dirt lot pigs. Dirt pigs, they call them. Dirt pigs, yeah. But they don't do much of that anymore. Factory farming has kind of taken over, or confinement farming. And a person can really increase their count output with confined building and climate control and all that stuff. So it's pretty much taken over in this state for large scale production.
So yeah, so 3 sides because it gets cold here.
Yeah, 3 sides if you want to do 3 sides. It'd be nice. Here's what you want to do: the back. Screw it on from the outside. So if you have to get it off, you can just go out there with a screw gun, take the screws off, and take the back off if you needed to. And then leave a vent at the ridge. Leave a little bit open like that, so her respiration heat can escape in the warmer months. That would be what I would do.
All right.
Yeah.
Stacy wondered, do you just raise meat birds?
No, we have a flock of egg layers as well. Yep. I think we keep 75 of them, and it's just for us, and that's a good subject right there. But we'll be talking about that tomorrow night. You can actually That's a lot of eggs. That's really a lot of the eggs. But you can water glass your eggs, and Jill did a video on that not too long ago, and I think it's on Baker's Green Acres, isn't it? It's water glassing eggs, and it's a way that you can save your eggs so that in the springtime when you have a big glut of them, that you can put them in a bucket and you make a solution that goes in the bucket, and they'll keep for a couple of years like that, so long as you keep the air off of them, and you can put that in your root cellar wherever, and then you save up those eggs, and then once you have enough eggs to go through the winter, you can start selling them or chuck them at cars or whatever you want to do, But trying to keep your chickens going 365 days is pretty tough, and it requires lights and things like that. And even then, they just don't want to lay in the wintertime. So I think it's better to just go with the seasons. When they really have that flush in the spring, save the eggs so you have enough to get through the winter, and then just live off the rest of them fresh, right from or give them away or sell them, whatever you want to do with them. But it's nice to have all your own eggs. It's not really good. I remember doing this, like we would have this flock of chickens. We'd have 75 chickens or 50 chickens, and they'd quit laying when it starts getting short days. But we're still feeding them, and then we're buying eggs. And I remember thinking, well, this isn't working out too good. Well, when they quit laying, then just don't be giving them high price feed. Give them just something that they'll eat. You can give them potatoes or potato skins or just the junk from the house, the garbage from the house. Really, they can eat just about anything. They're real scroungers. But then when they start laying in the spring, you got to really walk the good food to them, like grass clippings, and it's nice if they can get out and walk around on the grass, but they are destructive. They are big time destructive. We used to keep them in an eggmobile and try to take them out, but they'd see the house and they would come to the house, and there'd be one or two, and then before you know it, you'd have the whole flock would be at the house, and you'd think, oh, tonight I'm going to pick them all up. Of course, you can't catch them in the day. And then you forget, and then the next day you see them again. Oh, I'm going to catch them tonight, and you forget. And so now I have them in solitary confinement. And what I want to do is change my system so that I have 3 pens. And when springtime comes, I'm able to move them in on a fresh rotation of something, something that grows good early in the spring, like a rye or a field pea or something like that. And then when we get around to the fall, have a pen that is also could be rye, and the rye would be mature by then. And in the wintertime, they start to fall over, and then the chickens can just go out there and pick the rye seeds off, And it's really amazing how much feed you can grow for your livestock if you just put minimal effort into it. Actually, it's really all you need to do is know how to build fences, which we on bakersgreenacres.com, there's an excellent fence building video that you can purchase featuring yours truly. And when you get into homesteading, you may not be able to dedicate money towards any equipment like a tractor or anything like that, but you can build fences. You can buy a shovel, you can buy a post hole digger, you can buy a wheelbarrow, you can buy fence. None of that stuff is real expensive, but the know-how to put it up correctly, that's important to do it correctly first time, and really every time you want to do it right. And if you do it right, then you'll get a lot of use out of your fences. And then growing feed for your animals is really pretty easy. The video that I made today shows the grow area that we have, and it's really neat. You got three pastures, and I can rotate them all summer long. And with a small number of pigs, it just cuts your feed down to very little. You know, it's really nice because hog feed is expensive. It's costs you money to feed pigs. Another bird.
Both.
Yep. Anything else, Mom?
Oh yeah. Brittany wanted to know, she said, I know you've talked about this before, but can a son mate hit a mother with pigs? We have sows farrowing soon, and if there's a male that looks good for manga, may keep him for breeding.
You know what? I'm going to have to pass on that one. Maybe there's somebody in here that knows better than I do on that, because I'm not sure that I understand how that works exactly. I thought I did, but then I've heard different commentaries on that, and I don't want to pass out anything that's incorrect. We had some people here the weekend before last for our hog harvesting class, and there was a husband and wife couple, and she knew a lot about pigs. Didn't know how to butcher them, but she does now. And I was listening to what she was saying about father to daughter breeding, and it made a lot of sense, and it kind of goes against what I thought I knew. So I can't answer that with authority right now, Brittany. I would have to research it. And then, you know, when you research it, a lot of what you're going to find is the university books, and they don't need to do that. You know, in industrial agriculture, they don't need to do that. In a herd like you might have on a homestead, it's kind of a different story. Um, I guess one of the ways to look at this, I'll just go back to what I always say is, if we're in doubt, how does it work in nature? Will a father breed a daughter in nature? Yes. Will litter mates breed? Yes. Will a son breed a mother? Yes. So there you go.
What's been
Is it
your
optimum?
Well, what's been your experience? Because there's quite a few people saying, well, Finn the dog, I've heard son to mother is fine, but not grandfather to granddaughter, because by
Yes.
then you've got a few generations mixing. And someone else had commented that there's a way to do it with rabbits, but didn't know if it works with pigs. But what's been your experience?
We never do it. We just don't.
You've line bred before, though.
Yeah, but
Because that's basically what line breeding is, isn't it?
yeah, it would be father to daughter. That's the only thing that we've done.
Mm.
We've not done
Not
litter
son to
mates,
mother.
and no, we've not done son to
litter
mother.
mates on purpose.
No. So it works, and we haven't had. I think that you think you're going to have birth defects, but we haven't. But I can't speak with authority other than what we've done.
And we haven't had birth defects with the Mangalites.
No,
but
with the white
ones
pigs
in Montana, we did.
Yeah, we did. We had. They came out looking like porpoises, and yeah, they didn't do well. But that was totally an accident. Back then, we didn't know how young they could breed, and they can breed quite young, a lot younger than we thought. In nature, they would breed the first time a sow comes in heat or a gilt comes in heat, she would be bred. So the reason why they don't want you to do that in industrial farming is because they want huge litters. But what you get with huge litters is you get a sow that becomes hysterical with all these babies jumping around all over, and she can wind up snapping at them and getting really ugly. So if you let them breed the first time or the second time they go into heat, it seems like a good thing to me because they have small litter sizes and they learn how to deal with them. But that's just a theory. That's just a theory. I don't. And just because you read something in a university book doesn't mean it's gospel. There's a lot of variables on things. There'll be stuff that I'll say that I know because this is how I do it and it works. But something like what you're asking there, I don't know. I'd have to talk with somebody and say, really try and nail it down because I'm sure people have figured it out. But there you go. But
Popped over on Facebook for a moment.
oh, seeing the mayhem.
No, just attitude, funny posts.
Oh.
We need thumbs ups.
Oh yeah, can we get thumbs up too, please? And can you guys? You're on the Baker's Green Acres YouTube. Can you subscribe? Please subscribe and hit the little bell. We're trying to get up to 10,000 subs, and then a lot of things will change for us. So please help us out with that. Appreciate that. We're also using the super chat that's been coming in for advertising on YouTube. So just know that if you do a super chat with us, it's going to a good cause. I'm not just buying beer with it.
Oh, Stacy loved your Facebook Live today.
Thank you. Thank you. I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I made a change. I photographed the animals instead of just me. And I think that I'm going to do a lot more of that. Just whatever my subject is, I'm going to show that and not just me.
Okay. Kaleidoscope Junkie wondered if you had opinions on meat rabbits. She is in Northeast Georgia and looking at chinchilla rabbits, or I lost track of the other one.
Yeah.
In the comments.
Chinchilla.
But looking at meat rabbits.
The only real experience that I have is what we've done. And we really loaded up on rabbits when we were doing it. And I've just started doing it again last summer. And we've yet to have a successful litter here on our place. And I have a silver fox pair and I have a Flemish giant pair. And the book that I go by is a book that I bought 20 years ago at like a Tractor Supply store, and I'm reading it for the second time. And the reason I like rabbits is because for the survivalist, if you got to have protein, like let's say I used to say this before. I used to say, let's say we're all going to be dealing with some bad haircuts for a while. Here we are, right? There's not huge shortages or anything. There's not meat shortages, but I don't think it's far off to say, the changes that we've seen, that we couldn't see some meat shortages. And if you want to raise something that would be a protein for your family, I think rabbits is it. Especially if you live someplace where, in town, where you can't have pigs, you can't have cows, you really can't even have chickens, and if someone's going to complain because they're kind of noisy. Can't have a rooster. People complain about all kinds of stuff. But rabbits, if you set them up right, you can raise a lot of rabbits. You can forage feed for them, really easy, really easy. I mean, lawn clippings, uh, foliage off trees. Uh, Last year we went around and just picked everything we could get our hands on to see if we could find something that they wouldn't eat. There was some stuff they didn't like quite as much, but just about everything we gave them they ate. So if times got tough and you couldn't buy the little rabbit pellets and you had to feed them the grasses that are growing around, you could. Um, I'm doing something now that's part of the vertical integration thing I want to talk about tomorrow night, but I'll talk about it a little bit now. Um, I'm making these trellises that you bend uh, a piece of hog panel. You make a. I've shown this before, but what the heck? I'll show it again. I'll have to draw it for you. You take 3 2x4s. Two eighths, and then you cut one of them in half. So you got 4x8, 4 wide, 8 long. Put some heavy screws in there so you got this frame. And then if let's see, I'll draw another view of it. And then you bend a hog panel up over the top, like that. That's a piece of hog panel, 16-footer. You bend that up over the top. It'll be about 7 feet right here so you can actually walk through it. And the way we have it is there's a walkway. There's a walkway here in the garden. This is a row, and this is a row. So peas and beans and stuff will grow up here, and peas and beans will grow up here, and we'll totally fill that in. And you can do peas, beans, cucumbers, tomatoes. I mean, the sky's the limit. I've seen where guys do really heavy squash on them, and they hold up pretty good. But this right here, I'm going to incorporate a long cage right in here. I might put it in the middle. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it exactly. I got to look at it. But this will be right in the garden. So when you're out there and you have to weed. You have to weed around the base of your it's a process that you got to do. And when you're weeding, you could be feeding. So could tell the kids, hey, who wants to feed the rabbits? Oh, I'll do that. Okay, good. Feed them weeds. So you're out there and you're pulling weeds, and you're not just letting them lay there. You're picking all these weeds up and you put them in with the rabbits. So it kind of, to me, it's fun to get a species right in your garden. It's sort of like juggling chainsaws. If they ever got away, they could clean the thing out. But if you do it right, they're not going to get away, and then they'll grow on the weeds, and then eventually you'll harvest them, and they're really good to eat. So um, yeah, it's worthwhile doing. Definitely worthwhile doing. That's why I'm doing it. I think it's the ultimate survival animal. So I have a large breed, so a giant, the Flemish giant, and then I have the fox. So the book that I have, it recommends you do a large breed, so you're getting some really big ones, and then your everyday friars, they would call them, is a smaller breed, and people buy them too. It's one of those things. If you get it going, you can actually sell them, and well, we were talking about value added. If you learn how to process them, then you're creating a whole bunch of these little tiny animals on your place, and then you're doing the effort of feeding them, and then you go through the effort of processing them, get them all bagged and ready to go. You could sell a rabbit, I would think, for 15-20 bucks, don't you think? Especially a big one. I would think you could. Yeah, definitely be worth it. Definitely worth it. and all fed on pasture raised stuff. You can even make tractors for them. Uh, I never actually have, but a tractor would be something you're going to have a floor in it with rabbits, but some sort of material on the bottom, like a welded wire, to where when you move it, um, they can't dig out. The problem is, though, if if you have like 10 rabbits in there and they're all 4 pounds, it's got to be strong enough that you can pick it up and move it. And that's a tough one to master. It really is a tough one to master. Say if you had 10 of them in there and they were all 10 pounds, that would be tough. My son just pulled in the driveway and the dog's going to go out there and bark at him. She's not really that smart of a dog. So rabbits, yes, I think it's a good thing. I'm looking forward uh, to vertically integrating, you know, my rabbits into my garden area. I think that's just going to be neat. You know, another thing I want to do. Um, I discovered sort of a way to do things. Uh, Half-inch conduit at Home Depot. It's really cheap stuff. It's like $2 a piece, and the pieces are like 10 feet long. They are 10 feet long. And I think if you take a 7/16 spade drill bit and drill into a 2x4 with it, that conduit will fit in there really nice and snug. You even have to push it in a little bit. And if you put a little glue on it, it's not coming out. So if you learn how to bend conduit, there's a way to do it, and there's actually a tool that'll bend it. And you bend it, let's say, in a hoop that's 2 feet wide, or however wide the walkways are in your garden. And let's say, I think the walkways in our garden are 24 inches. Um, so if I made this hoop at 24 inches and I had 8-foot sections of 2x4, and I had hoops across, and I put them, let's say, every 4 feet on that 2x4, so I'd have, let's see, 4 of them on there, and then put chicken wire over them. Now I've got a chicken run, and if I made it in 8-foot sections, at the end of the run, I could have a little house that the chickens could roost in at night. And what would be neat is if that chicken house was perpendicular to the rows. So if I was on walkway number 1 and the chicken house is sitting there, and then I have this run in 8-foot sections, let's say I had 4 of them, 4 times 8, yeah, it would not quite be enough. Let's say 40 feet. I'd make it almost all the way to halfway in the garden. Um, the chickens could run up and down in there and kind of debug it in the during gardening time. And then when they go in at night, after they've worn out a walkway, then you can move it to the next walkway and put them in and let them go up and down there. I think it'd be neat. And then we'd take the chickens that like to sit on eggs, or the ones they call broodies, you take them and put them up here by the garden that are close to us. And then when they start sitting on their chicks, they're here, we can watch them, and they're separated from all the other chickens that don't like to sit on their eggs. And then you don't have to have an incubator. You've just got 2 groups of chickens, and usually, like, if we've got 50 of them down there, there's always going to be like 3 hens that want to sit on eggs, the ones that you have to kick off the nest to get the eggs out. And so they're indicating to you that they're the ones that want to sit, and you take them and put them up here by the garden. Yeah, I think that would be kind of cool. Another thing to do. But that was supposed to be a rabbit question. And you can do something with the hides too. That would really be smart. I kind of went into that a little bit the other night. It's a really hot market ladies lingerie made out of rabbit hides. Keep your woman warm and tickled.
Okay, I'm going to follow up with a couple rabbit questions out of order because they're related to
Okay.
rabbits.
All right.
Okay, so Stacy suggests run chickens under rabbits when you have them, right?
Yeah.
So you're layering. That's your integration thing.
Yeah, that's right. Or run worms under rabbits too.
Yeah, so you're composting.
You know what happens though
going.
with chickens? Chickens will reach up through and grab the small rabbits if they ever wind up out of the nesting box.
Oh, if you have them under.
So you got to be careful.
Kindling rabbits.
Yeah. Well, if you have a chicken that's wandering around, you know, they're gonna find some mischief to get in. If they can find a baby rabbit, they'll eat it.
Jonathan wanted to know the best way to prepare rabbit.
Why, Hassenpfeffer, of course. No,
Yeah.
for me, I would just as soon take like 6 rabbits, put them in a pot, stew them, pick all the bones out of it, and the rabbit just goes in jars. That's how I would prefer it. And then put it with mayonnaise and onion and celery, and then put it on, make sandwiches out of it. That's how I would like it. Because it's stringy, you know. It's not exactly like chicken.
Yeah. Stacy might have some ideas. She's been raising them for quite a while. So. And then here's the loaded question. She commented that she sells them for $10 live. If you sell butchered, then you have to be licensed.
Yeah. All right. Here's the straight. Here it is on that. You have to be licensed to sell them at a farmer's market, to a restaurant, or to a retail store. But to sell them to another citizen, you do not have to be licensed. Okay. And what that falls under is if I want to provide you a service, if I want to give back rubs, for instance, or paint toenails, and it's like on my farm, it's between me and the other citizen, and the government doesn't have the authority to get in between. The way they do it is through health departments. That's how they do it. So a restaurant would like to buy your rabbits, let's say, to sell in their restaurant. And the restaurant is licensed through the health department. The health department says any rabbits that you buy have to be from somebody else who's licensed through the Department of Agriculture. So it's sort of a shakedown deal, right? Do they actually come and watch you do it? No, they don't. You just got to send them money for a license to say that you can do it. And if you want to sell to restaurants, go ahead. I don't, because you got to sell to restaurants at wholesale so that they can bump the price to make their money. You're better off just selling to private parties. And nowadays, you know, the restaurant has an expensive piece of property in town so that there's a lot of people driving by and they can all see the sign that says Tony's Restaurant. But nowadays, with the internet, you don't have to have that expensive piece of property in town. You can develop a local market around you of just other citizens. Now, if you call the Department of Agriculture and ask them, they're in the business of selling licenses. So you're going to say, do I need a license to sell rabbits? They're going to say, yeah. And they're going to say, well, what the heck? It's only $150 a year. And then they'll come out and they'll make you jump through a whole bunch of hoops on where you're going to do it and all that stuff. And for what? You don't get anything out of it. So I don't agree with you that if you're going to sell them, you have to have a license, because your process, let's say that what you want to do. So let's say I want to do bees. Let's say I want to have bees here. Bees are not illegal. If I want to have bees here, uh, and it's not illegal, well, I don't have to go running to the state to ask them permission, you know. So why should you, or why would you? But if you ask them, they're going to say, "Oh yes, oh yes." But if you don't, are they just going to beat on your door and say, "You got a license to sell rabbits there, boy"? Who knows these days? They might. Well, it looks like the helicopters are heading for Lansing. Maybe it's on fire. We have an army base north of us. Oh yeah. No, state police. All right. You can hear that helicopter. So that's the deal on that. I know what I'm talking about that. I really do.
She said that was good news.
Yeah, it's good news. Um, you all of these processes, do not go asking them for permission to do it. What your permission slip to do this, what we're talking about here, is the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. So get it and read it. And it says in the Fifth Amendment, it's down there a little way, but it says, your life, your liberty, and your property, your process is your property. I trust me, I know what I'm talking about. Is protected under due process of law. Translated, unless there's a law out there, and there's a law that says you can't sell rabbits to your neighbors, and there is no law like that, but if there was a law like that, and then the government agency like Department of Ag was selling you a carve out or a get out of jail free card so you can do it, but nobody else can, they can't do that. So what they do is they say, you need a license from us. And you say, okay. And when you sign on the dotted line, you're agreeing with them. So you've just made a contract with them. So now we're talking contract law. So you've legally given away your Fifth Amendment because you've asked for permission from Department of Agriculture for something that you don't need permission to do. Now, you do need permission if you're going to sell it to somebody else who's gotten permission and they have restrictions on their permission, right? It's 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 a lot like getting a hall pass when you're in elementary school. I mean, I didn't go to an elementary school that had that, but I've heard about it. You get a hall pass and the teacher checks on their lavatory and you wind up at the I don't know, the gymnasium. You violated the contract. You say to the teacher, I need to go to the bathroom. Teacher says, well, okay, but you need a hall pass. You say, okay, I'll take the hall pass. She says, you can go to the bathroom, but you wind up in the gymnasium. Your next stop will be the principal's office. And that's kind of the contract that the agreement that you make if you look through the student's handbook, you know, when you start school. So it's sort of the same thing. So, you know, we're homeschoolers, so we don't have any of that. It's sort of the same thing if you're a homestead. Don't even talk to them. Don't even talk to them. And if here's what does happen, and this happened to the 1801 farm right over there in Frankfurt. The wife put some pictures up on Facebook of milk. They just gotten a new cow, and she was so proud. She milked the cow. She put the pictures of these jars of milk up, and she said some of our first milk. She didn't say she was selling it. She gets a knock on the door. Two people from the Department of Ag show up, and they start asking questions. and she handled it properly. She's, I don't answer questions. Just go away. I'm not doing anything. Leave me alone. And then we conversed about it, and she'd handled it properly. They said that there had been a complaint that she was selling milk, but it was a lie. There was no complaint. They cruise Facebook, and they look. If they think you're doing something, they're in the business of selling licenses. So they'll come to you and they'll say, "Oh, well, we don't want to get you in trouble or anything, but if you buy a license from us, it's okay." It's so stupid. It's just really so stupid. That's why I say don't get involved with retail stores, restaurants, or farmers markets. Just, you have the internet, develop a customer base. When you have something more than you need, put it out to your customer base that, hey, I'm butchering a cow this Friday. Does anybody need some hamburger? And you just do it that way. It's between you and them. You have a contract with your neighbors, and it can be verbal, whatever. Nobody can get in between. And you might say, "Whoa, what if I'm butchering a cow at my house and the police show up?" First of all, the police are law enforcement officers, right? Uh, these entities like Department of Agriculture, they have food codes and food regulations. They make them up. They're not laws. Laws are different. Laws go through the House, the Senate, signed into law by the governor. That's a totally different thing. Those are laws. And law enforcement officers, they take care of laws. Um, the supreme law of the land, you can take this to the bank, is the U.S. Constitution. The state constitutions have to square with the U.S. Constitution. So you should download the Bill of Rights. It's just a page. The First Amendment, free speech, freedom of religion, right to gather. Second Amendment, right to own and bear arms, all that stuff. Third Amendment, that's soldiers in your home. Fourth Amendment is your right to your property and the right to be left alone on your property. And that's what makes it so when you're on your property, if entities from the state want to come on your property, they got to have one of two things. They got to have permission from you, an invitation, or they got to have a warrant signed by a judge. So in order to get a warrant signed by a judge, you've got to go to a judge and say, "I'm pretty sure they're breaking a law there and I want to catch them doing it. Can I please get a warrant to search their property?" And then you have to make the case to the judge, and you better make a good case to the judge that you're not going to get there and find nothing. You got to go there and find something. So, and that's usually law enforcement officers that do that, not food inspectors. So don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. And if they show up, just tell them, "No thanks, go away." And they will, because they don't really have any authority. They, you'd think they do, because they got the state car and everything, but just go away, food inspector. Just go away. All right.
New topic?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been down that road.
um, Brittany had a quick question, and I did put a link in the chat for the calf huts that we use.
Yeah.
But she wondered, would a calf hut work for farrowing, or is a Mangalitsa too big for that?
Well, Mangalitas start out like this big, and if they're 5 years old, then they're big. But I use those calf hutches, and we haven't had any problems, and I've had some pretty big sows. So
We've had them
they
double
will.
up in there.
Yeah, we've had them double up in there. So they're actually quite durable. If you do get the ones from Farm Tech like we got, I'm sure you've seen them in our videos. You across the front of them, the opening, bolt a 2x12 across there, a section of 2x12. So you'll have to cut it at 5 feet. So if you have, buy a 10-footer, cut it in half, bolt it on there with carriage bolts. And what that does is it keeps it from spreading. Okay, these things, I'm gonna wreck another page. The calf hutches look like this, and they have like corrugated PVC sheeting on there. White, really tough stuff. It's about 1/4 of an inch, and it's got screws that hold it in, self-tapping screws. The ribs are made out of extruded steel tubes, and I think there's 3 of them. Yeah, there's 3 of them. Well, across the front of this, bolt a 2x12 and do it. It makes a lot of sense to do it, because if you don't, these things eventually spread and it looks like heck. But another thing that you get, if you put a 2x12 across there, it's kind of a threshold. It'll hold. If you put bedding in there for your mom, or Mengas usually bed their own nest. But this will keep the little babies from getting out until they're big enough to get out, which is kind of convenient. So that's what we've done, and it's worked really well, really well. I have 8 of them. I sold 2 to a guy.
And pigs are tough on stuff, but they've lasted for, I mean, they're like $435. How many each are they? 415 if you get 5 or more. But they've lasted for 10 years, and we've used them for every animal on the farm.
Yeah.
Including kids.
Yeah. Yeah, when they were new, my kids used to sleep out in them. Yeah, we use them for all kinds of stuff. Wood. I can show you one right from here. Right through there. Can you see that? There's a whole line of them. There's number 8, number 7. Maybe that's clear. I don't know how well that showed. I had to go through things, and I can't actually see what I could have. There you go. So we're at 67 minutes.
Yeah.
How are we doing on questions?
More for you here.
All right.
Cody, do you think one boar and one sow would turn half acre into a mud lot with apple trees and acorns and feeding grains? Or should he plan on sectioning patches off? Plenty of grass for forage throughout?
Yeah, you definitely want to section it off so you could rotate. Because then when they're on one of them, the other one can be growing, and you can grow stuff in there. If the trees are small, you have to be careful, because they'll girdle them. They'll eat the bark off of them down low, and they'll kill the trees. So you got to be kind of careful about that. If they start doing it, you got to do something to protect it. And I've seen a bunch of different ways guys can do it, but I think you can figure it out. Electric's the best way to go. But yeah, acorns are some of the coolest.
Oh, the trees are
things.
Full-grown, huge ones.
Oh, are they? Oh man, I wish I had oak trees on my place. That's worth doing some research on. Mangalitsa and acorns together, that's a great combination. The acorns I mean, the timing on this, if this is the Big Bang Theory, then, it sure worked out good. What a coincidence, right? But the acorns come right before it gets real cold. And when it gets real cold, that's when you want to be butchering, right? So let's say you have pigs that are 200 pounds, and you have a wood lot with a lot of oak on it. Acorns start falling September 1st, let's say, and they fall until October 15th. They usually do. They fall for like 6 weeks. And they hit the ground, the pigs go right to it and eat it. It seems like the acorn was made for the mangalitsa, and the mangalitsa was made for the acorn, because they crack those acorns open, and then that little tongue just takes that meat right out of there. It's sort of like watching a parrot eat a Brazil nut. It's really something to see. if you collect them all up and then you throw them in with the pigs, forget it. They'll just chomp them down because they don't want their buddies to get more than them. But when they're in a natural setting, it's something to see. So the acorns, if you ever eat one, they're really bitter, and that is tannic acid. Wait a minute. That I'm not sure if
Acorns?
it's tannic acid or tannins, and the tannins get in the
And make tannic acid.
and make tannic acid in the fat of the animal, of the mangalitsa. And the tannic acid resists rancidity, so you can theoretically, haven't done it, just because we're dealing with high-priced animals and we want to, stack the deck a little bit. Theoretically, you could, after they've eaten a whole bunch of these acorns, you could slaughter them, gut them, hang them in a tree, so long as they were, I suppose they'd have to be shrouded because the birds would have at them, so long as there's no flies, and that carcass would cure, right? So long as it's cold enough out and there's no, it would cure because of the tannins that's in the fat, the tannic acid in the fat. So the way we do it is we take the animal apart and we'll put salt on the cuts that we want to preserve, that we want to cure. So the big muscle behind the head, we'll take that out. I mean, it's like this big and it's like this long. And we'll dredge it in salt, truss it, and then hang it, and it cures. And then you just run it through the meat slicer, and it's really thin. It's called Coca-Cola, and it's out of this world. And I'm sure you've heard about prosciutto, and that's where you take the back leg and you take it off. There's a certain way to get it off, and you pack the end of it with salt, and actually you pack it in salt, and then you rotate it until a certain amount of weight is gone off of it, and then you know that you've gotten enough of the moisture out. And this is part of our class, the one that's sold out, by the way. But if you want to get in on the next one, you can certainly register for it. We'll put together another class. And then you hang that up, and you hang it at 60 degrees and 60% humidity, plus or minus, 20, either way. And you do this in the fall, and then you're going to go through winter where it's cold, and then by the time you make it to spring, that prosciutto is stable and it's good to go. There's a story in the Back to Basics book about curing meat. I think it's in there, is it? Where a farmer will, maybe it's in there, maybe it isn't. But I read this, and I read this before the internet, okay? So it's before we had internets. This goes back a while, but a farmer's wife would have a baby girl, and the next pig that he slaughtered, he would prepare the hams, so 2 hams, and then those hams would be served at her wedding. All right, and that's just give you an idea how early they used to marry. No, it gives you an idea how long you can cure it, how long a cured ham will last, right? And the whole charcuterie thing, making prosciuttos and all that stuff, it's become quite posh in the last, I don't know, 20 years in America, but the idea was that was how you preserved meats before nitrates and freezers and all that stuff. You had to preserve meat somehow, and the killing of the hog was always done in the fall time. I think primarily because of flies. I think that would be my guess. So you're lucky if you got oak trees. The average size oak tree, I've read in several places, will drop an average of 2,000 pounds, a ton of acorns per year, right? The average size tree, I guess, is 12 inches in diameter. So that's not that big of a tree. It will drop a lot of acorns. And I know there's a lot of different species. Um, Down south, Texas and in Florida, actually, they have big problems with feral pigs, and those are pigs that have been escaped or abandoned, and there's so much feed for them because of the acorns. Yeah, pigs love acorns. And that's, if you like scrounging and you need something to do, I mean, in the fall time, there's nothing better than going and picking up acorns because you can find so many of them. It's like, it's like an Easter egg hunt. You find the really big ones, and we have these little machines called bag of nuts that will pick them up. You push them along, and they just pick them up, roll them into a basket. I love picking them up. It's so much fun. It's called acorning. My youngest boy said to my son one time, my youngest said to my oldest, "Hey Kyle, you want to go acorning with us?" Acorning. Doesn't everybody go acorning? We go acorning. All right, how we doing?
Oh, this is related. Do acorns save from year to year? I get tons one
No,
year, less in other years.
no, they don't. There's actually, at least around here in Michigan, I've noticed. I saved a bunch, and you would notice in the spring that they're light, so they're empty, and there's a little worm in there that will eat, and I think it's some sort of moth. So no, they don't. I mean, I guess you could if you put nitrogen, if you had them in a sealed container and you put nitrogen, I suppose that would stabilize them or something else. But I have not experimented with that. So no. If you got too many acorns, you need more pigs. That's all there is to it. I need more pigs right now because we've sold so many so quickly, and I've got a tremendous feed supply, but no pigs to feed them to. I have some. I just don't have as many as I'd like. I'm getting ready to farrow. Freeze in water jugs like fish. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah, if you've got freezer space.
yeah. If you can, yeah, if you could freeze them, that would do it.
All right. Speaking of kaleidoscope, junkie. Any benefit feeding rabbit manure to pigs?
Ooh, you got me. Kaleidoscope Junkie comes up with some real questions. I'm almost thinking, didn't she ask? Is it a she?
Think so.
We don't know. Uh, about do I feed my cows garlic when I'm putting them out on grass? That was Kaleidoscope Junkie,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
could be. Yep.
Yeah, and I was thinking about
She's
that
a
the other day. I might have
thinker.
come off, huh?
She's a thinker.
A thinker. I might have come off a little on the nasty side because I thought you were kidding me. Like, right, who does that? But maybe I'm missing something, Because I noticed the other day when I was out with my cows, this time of year they're eating a lot of grass and their manure is pretty runny. It almost splashes when it hits the ground, right? So I'm sorry if I came off like kind of a jerk, but I thought you were kidding me. And I don't know, but I will know. I'm going to take some of these bunny doots, we call them, and give them to the pigs and see if they will eat them. Huh? Wouldn't that be something?
What about the compost pile thing? If you did that with your rabbit.
Yeah. Um, it would be kind of interesting to see, though. But see, what I think would be, you can do several things with your rabbits. You can build a containment that their hutch is above. Let's say the hutch is 3 feet off the ground, and you build a 1 foot containment on the ground, and let's say you built it out of landscaping timbers, or I don't know, pressure treated 2x12s, something like that. So it just basically be a box, and the legs would be in the corners of that box, the legs of the hutch. And then the hutch has a wire bottom, so when the rabbit's manure bloop, goes through, and you can put bedding in there as well. And the bedding can be anything, can be leaves, can be hay, can be straw, could be maybe wood chips. Um, and like on ours, the bedding falls through at about the same rate as the rabbit pellets fall through, the manure falls through. So there's a nice mix under the cage. And if you just go under there with a fork and you kind of mix it up a little bit, it'll start to work. It'll start to compost. And there's a relationship between rabbit manure and worms that works out pretty good. Chicken manure and worms, no. Uh, Cow manure and worms, also a no. I just don't see it. Not the kind of worms that we have around here. I mean, maybe there's some sort of worm, but I don't see it. But rabbit manure and worms, yes. And so you could put worms in there, and they will break that pile down even quicker. And then you can harvest worms out of there. You can either sell them to fishermen, you can go fishing, or you can put them into your garden. There you go. So that's vertical integration right there. Or you can make soup out of them, I suppose. Protein's protein, right?
Kaleidoscope is a she, her.
Him?
No hims. She, her. I forget the third one.
She, her.
He, him. Yeah, what is it when they do that?
Oh, yeah. She, her.
We've seen a few.
Yeah, we've seen a few like that.
Signatures where
He,
they
him.
put the pronouns. Yeah. She said she was a bartender. She can roll with anything.
Okay.
And you remember the thong thing?
The what? The thong thing?
Remember when you were gonna sell pigs and then they'd.
Oh yeah, that goes way back. And I was gonna send a picture of me in a Speedo. That goes way back. I don't know what ever possessed me to say something stupid like that. I don't know. But I did it. Luckily, I didn't have to send any of those out.
Yeah, no one took you up on that.
No one took me up on that. I tell you what. Never mind. Never mind.
All right.
It's a family show.
Well, speaking of selling pigs, though. Yeah. By the way, that's not a good sales technique. It didn't work. It got attention, but didn't necessarily sell pigs.
Yeah.
Cody wondered, do you sell your feeder pigs word of mouth, Craigslist, Facebook, or what?
Word of mouth. But we've been at this a while, so don't expect that to happen overnight. But your best marketing device is word of mouth, and if people buy stuff from you and they get a fair deal, they'll tell 10 people. If they feel like they got ripped off, then they'll say, I don't know, I think I got ripped off. And I suppose I've gotten all kinds of commentaries, but we've got a pretty good network. So when we have animals to sell, people looking towards us. A while ago, I was getting 2 calls a week, and now I'm not getting any calls a week. I put the pictures of those little Mangalitas up online as breeding stock, and people don't want breeding stock. They want feeders, which I think now is the time, if you wanted to get a little side business going, now is the time to do it. And boy, you make your investment back, but quick. We sell them for $150 for feeders, and that is an animal that's just going to be fed out for butcher. And breeders, I sell them for $500. I sell puppies for 500 all day long, and our puppies are $250 cheaper than everybody else's. And I think I'm in the same boat with the Mangalitsa, you know, I do, but
All right. That's all I have.
that's it. All right,
Yep.
we're at, wow, 85 minutes. Thank you everybody for coming by. Please hit the like, share, and thanks for all the thumbs up. That's great. Um, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Okay, everybody hang in there. Stay safe. Thanks.